The clear parts were attached onto the model with Tamiya extra thin cement, with the smaller clear parts being applied onto the model with a pair of tweezers. The canopy in this kit was moulded into separate parts, which requires you to glue the sides onto the canopy. I first attached one side onto the main canopy, allowing the part to dry first before the other side was glued onto the canopy. After the canopy was built, it was then time to assemble the cockpit. After most of the model was built, both the clear nose and canopy were glued onto the model with Tamiya extra thin cement. Then it was time to attach the wingtip lights, but first I painted a few drops of Tamiya clear red and Tamiya clear green in the corners of the parts. Once the paint had dried out, the parts were glued onto the wings with Tamiya extra thin cement. Then it was time to paint the model. To add a bit of contrast to the black paint work, I added a few drops of Vallejo Continental Blue to another layer of black paint. That was then used as a highlight colour, with the paint being applied onto the tail and along the sides of the fuselage and onto the outer sides of the engine cowls. After drying, the black undersides were masked off. Then it was time to start painting the upper camouflage surface, starting with the painting of the grey, using Italeri Acrylic flat dark grey with a few drops of acrylic thinner, with the brush strokes running from nose to tail along the fuselage, using a small flathead paintbrush. The wings were painted with a large flathead paintbrush, with the brush strokes running out from the wing roots to the wing tips. Once the first layer of paint was dried, a second coat of grey paint was applied in the same way. After plenty of drying time, the work on the camouflage pattern began. I first sketched onto the model the green camo bands, using a plain HB pencil and copying the pattern freehand, following the kit's painting instructions the best I could, with any mistakes being removed with an eraser. Once the pattern was sketched onto the model, it was time to paint the green bands, starting with a coat of Italeri Acrylic dark green and Vallejo Model Color flat black that was thinned down with acrylic paint thinners. The edges were painted first using a small roundhead paintbrush, with the centre of the bands being painted with a small flathead paintbrush. After drying, the green bands were painted with a coat of dark green, using the same small roundhead and flathead paintbrushes, with a second coat of green being painted after drying. To add a bit of contrast and have a much cleaner edge along the colour bands, I painted an outline of dark grey and black paint mix along the edge of the green bands. Once the outline was painted, I added some highlights to the model by painting a dark green and flat yellow paint mix in the middle of the green bands and on the raised surfaces. And with the painting of the highlights completed, it was time to paint the canopy frame by first masking and painting the vertical frame. After painting 2 coats of grey and green, then it was time to remask and paint the horizontal frame. And after drying, the masking tape was removed. It was then time to apply the decals onto the model. The fuselage, RAF roundel and letter code decals in this kit were printed as one piece. To make the application easier of this large decal, the decals were first cut in half and applied in stages, allowing enough time for each decal to dry before the next one was applied. After the decaling was completed, it was time to finish the assembly of this kit. final parts glued onto the Mosquito, the final step was to attach some rigging thread onto the radio antenna, attached in stages with a few drops of superglue. And with the final piece of thread attached, the model was completed. Thank you for watching this video, and good luck with all your ongoing scale modeling projects. Here it is, the completed model.